Okay.
Coverage. And welcome to Hannity, and we start with this Fox News alert. The president of our country, of the United States, Donald Trump, he will deliver a major address from the White House in just a moment. The president is expected tonight to give a huge update on the conflict with Iran, which appears to be in its final stage. In fact, according to the president, Iran's president is now asking for a ceasefire. Well, no thanks to NATO, by the way. Our own Peter Ducey, he's live. He's outside the White House. Peter, we expect him in about, 70 seconds from now.
Yes, so I'll be really quick. No ceasefire, Sean, until the Strait of Hormuz is open. And the challenge for President Trump is going to be reassuring Americans that Epic Fury is winding down in the next 2 or 3 weeks, at which point gas prices will come down, he says, while also not really giving away too much to the Iranians about what remaining American assets in the region are doing. There is still the issue of uranium that could be collected. There are, but he is going to tell us about how wiped out the Iranian army and navy and ballistic missile facilities are at the moment after a month plus of this operation. So expect to see him walk out right on time. Sean.
You know, I'd expect, too, the nature of the threat. How close were they potentially to having nuclear capability? I'm sure that will come up tonight. The issue of 60% enriched uranium, I would expect that might be discussed, and also the issue of NATO. All right, now let's take you inside the White House. We expect the president is going to make that walk straight to the podium. And here's the president of the United States.
Thank you very much. My fellow Americans, good evening. Let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis II. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing. They are on the way, and God bless them. These are brave people. We want to God bless those 4 unbelievable astronauts. As we speak this evening, it's been just 1 month since the United States military began Operation Epic Fury, targeting the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, Iran. In these past 4 weeks, our armed forces have delivered swift, decisive, overwhelming victories on the battlefield. Victories like few people have ever seen before. Tonight, Iran's navy is gone. Their air force is in ruins. Their leaders, most of them terrorist regime they led, are now dead. Their command and control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is being decimated as we speak. Their ability to launch missiles and drones is dramatically curtailed, and their weapons, factories, and rocket launchers are being blown to pieces. Very few of them left. Never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks. Our enemies are losing in America, as it has been for 5 years under my presidency, is winning, and now winning bigger than ever before. Before discussing this current situation, I also want to thank our troops for the masterful job they did in taking the country of Venezuela in a matter of minutes. That hit was quick, lethal, violent, and respected by everyone all over the world. After rebuilding our military during my first term, we have by far the strongest military anywhere in the world. And now we're working along with Venezuela and are, in a true sense, joint venture partners. We're getting along incredibly well in the production and sale of massive amounts of oil and gas, the second largest reserves on Earth after the United States of America. We're now totally independent of the Middle East, and yet we are there to help. We don't have to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have, but we're there to help our allies. Tonight, I want to provide an update on the tremendous progress our warriors have made in Iran and discuss why Operation Epic Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world. From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel for 47 years. Their proxies were behind the murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, the slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs. They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole, and they carried out the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel, something that most people have never seen anything like it. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran. 45,000 dead. For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat. The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen, and neither should any of our past presidents. This situation has been going on for 47 years and should have been handled long before I arrived in office. I did many things during my 2 terms in office to stop the quest for nuclear weapons by Iran first, and perhaps most importantly, I killed General Qasem Soleimani in my first term. He was an evil genius, brilliant person, a horrible human being, however, the father of the roadside bomb, and he lived just horrible what he did. Iran would have been perhaps in far better, stronger position. Had he lived, we would have had probably a different conversation tonight. But you know what? We'd still be winning and winning big. And then very importantly, I terminated Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, a disaster. Obama gave them $1.7 billion in cash, green cash. Took it out of banks from Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, all the cash they had. He flew it by airplanes in an attempt to buy their respect and loyalty, but it didn't work. They laughed at our president and went on with their mission to have a nuclear bomb. His Iran deal would have led to a colossal arsenal of massive nuclear weapons for Iran, and they would have had them years ago, and they would have used them. Would have been a different world. There would have been no Middle East and no Israel right now, in my opinion, the opinion of a lot of great experts, had I not terminated that terrible deal. And I was so honored to do it. I was so proud to do it. It was so bad right from the beginning. Essentially, I did what no other president was willing to do. They made mistakes, and I am correcting them. My first preference was always the path of diplomacy, yet the regime continued their relentless quest for nuclear weapons and rejected every attempt at an agreement. For this reason, in June, I ordered a strike on Iran's key nuclear facilities, an Operation Midnight Hammer. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Those beautiful B-2 bombers performed magnificently. We totally obliterated those nuclear sites. The regime then sought to rebuild their nuclear program at a totally different location, making clear they had no intention of abandoning their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They were also rapidly building a vast stockpile of conventional ballistic missiles and would soon have had missiles that could reach the American homeland, Europe, and virtually any other place on Earth. Iran's strategy was so obvious. They wanted to produce as many missiles as possible, and they did, with the longest range possible, and they had some weapons that nobody believed they had. We just learned that out. We took them out. We took them all out so that no one would really dare stop them. And they raced for a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon like nobody's ever seen before. They were right at the doorstep. For years, everyone has said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, but in the end, those are just words if you're not willing to take action when the time comes.
Amen.
As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion. As we celebrate this progress, we think especially of the 13 American warriors who have laid down their lives in this fight to prevent our children from ever having to face a nuclear Iran. Twice this past month, I've traveled to Dover Air Force Base, and it's been something. I wanted to be with those heroes as they return to American soil. When I was with them and their families, their parents, their wives, their husbands, we salute them, and now we must honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives. And every single one of the people, their loved ones said, "Please, sir, please finish the job." Every one of them. And we are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close. I want to thank our allies in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain. They've been great, and we will not let them get hurt or fail in any way, shape, or form. Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gasoline prices here at home. This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict. This is yet more proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They will use them, and they will use them quickly. It would lead to decades of extortion, economic pain, and instability worse than we can ever imagine. The United States has never been better prepared economically to confront this threat. You all know that. We built the strongest economy in history. We're going through it right now, the strongest in history. In 1 year, we've taken a dead and crippled country. I hate to say that, but we were a dead and crippled country after the last administration and made it the hottest country anywhere in the world by far, with no inflation, record-setting investments coming into the United States, over $18 trillion, and the highest stock market ever, with 53 all-time record highs in just 1 year. It all positioned us to get rid of a cancer that has long simmered. It's known as the nuclear Iran, and they didn't know what was coming. They'd never imagined it. Remember, because of our Drill Baby Drill program, America has plenty of gas. We have so much gas. Under my leadership, we're #1 producer of oil and gas on the planet, without even discussing the millions of barrels that we're getting from Venezuela. Because of the Trump administration's policies, we produce more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Think of that, Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And that number will soon be substantially higher than that. There's no country like us anywhere in the world, and we're in great shape for the future. The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait, and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. They're going to want to be able to sell oil because that's all they have to try and rebuild. It will resume the flowing, and the gas prices will rapidly come back down. Stock prices will rapidly go back up. They haven't come down very much, frankly. They came down a little bit, but they've had some very good days over the last couple of days. We've done actually much better than I thought, but we had to take that little journey to Iran to get rid of this horrible threat. With our historic tax cuts, where people are just now talking about receiving larger refunds than they ever thought possible, they are getting so much more money than they thought. That's from the great big beautiful bill. Our economy is strong and improving by the day, and it will soon be roaring back like never before. It will top the levels that it was a month ago. I've made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there's no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. We are unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the B-2 bombers have been hit so hard that it would take months to get near the nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important that we keep this conflict in perspective. American involvement in World War I lasted 1 year, 7 months, and 5 days. World War II lasted for 3 years, 8 months, and 25 days. The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days. And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future. The whole world is watching, and they can't leave the power, strength, and brilliance. They just can't believe what they're seeing. They leave it to your imagination, but they can't believe what they're seeing, the brilliance of the United States military. Tonight, every American can look forward to a day when we are finally free from the wickedness of Iranian aggression and the specter of nuclear blackmail. Because of the actions we have taken, we are on the cusp of ending Iran's sinister threat to America and the world. And I'll tell you, the world is watching. And when we do, when it's all over, the United States will be safer, stronger, more prosperous, and greater than it has ever been before. May God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much, and good night.
Amen. It's the Holy Spirit's job
That
to
was
convict,
President
God's
Trump
job
with a
to
major
judge,
update on the
our job
conflict
to
that the
love.
United States and
And I love our
Israel are
president.
dominating.
And I love our
He laid out
military.
in no uncertain terms why America was forced to obliterate Iran's regime and military. First and foremost, as President Trump has stated for years, Iran cannot be allowed to build a nuclear weapon. And this regime, he says, was on the cusp of multiple nuclear weapons, a terrorist regime chanting death to America, death to Israel, the #1 state sponsor of terror, and that America obviously cannot allow them to be trusted with nuclear weapons. Make no mistake, this conflict is all about ending Iran's ability to threaten America. President didn't give a specific timeline, but talked about the next 2 to 3 weeks, and this thing should be wrapped up in terms of all military objectives. He also touched on the short-term increase in gas prices, the result of the remaining Iranian regime, maybe the 4th or 5th tier, and their attempts to block trade through the Strait of Hormuz. But this pain at the pump, he says, will not last. America, he rightly pointed out, produces more oil and gas than any other country in the entire world, more than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And also, with our new relationship with Venezuela, we are the #1 producer of energy. They are #2. Still, no country, especially the terrorist state of Iran, should ever be permitted to hold international trade routes hostage. That's why the president has called on nations not like America. We are not dependent on the Strait of Hormuz, but those that are dependent on Middle Eastern oil and that strait to buy from America, or go to that strait, take that strait, secure that strait. And he said it would be fairly easy for them to do after all the damage we have done. In the meantime, negotiations, he has pointed out, with the Iranians and new Iranian, he says, more reasonable leadership will continue, and so will these strikes until a deal is made and the Strait of Hormuz is completely opened up. The president said if they refuse to make a deal, the U.S. will continue to decimate their entire energy, oil infrastructure. And as the president put it simply, we're unstoppable. We hold all the cards, they hold none. All of this has taken place in 32 days, as the president made historical reference to how long America had been involved in what I guess he was defining in the campaign as forever wars. This is not that. Here with reaction to the president's address, Senator Lindsey Graham is with us. You said about a week ago that this is going to wrap up. You want the president to wrap up. We see the historic, we see what has happened here. There are still targets available.
Sure.
Do you believe this is pretty much wrapped up in 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah, I do. So I like a president who has an objective, defines what the objective is, tells the military, whatever you need to accomplish the task, you have my blessing. This is how you win in 32 days. You have a commander-in-chief that will unleash the might of the American military with clear objectives. So what did we learn tonight? In 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have completed the objective of destroying their ballistic missile program, no longer be able to threat America or Europe, make more missiles. We learned tonight that their nuclear ambitions to build a nuclear bomb have been completely decimated, and their ability to finance terrorism is gone. In about 2 to 3 weeks, those objectives will have been met. And how does this movie end? Here's what President Trump said tonight. If you're in Iran, you better be listening. I'm willing to do a deal to make sure you don't become the largest state sponsor of terrorism again. I'm willing to do a deal that will allow you to exist under certain conditions. You have to change your behavior. But if you don't do a deal, I'm going to decimate your ability to come back economically. President Trump outlined targets that would destroy the ability of this regime to survive over time. If you don't take this deal, we're going to blow up all the things that you need to come back. This was a defining moment in this campaign. He defined the end state. He set the objectives early on. We're inside the 10-yard line, and he's telling Iran how this movie ends. It's up to you. We can do it through diplomacy, and if you reject diplomacy, this will end with a decimation of your ability to ever come back economically.
Senator, what would a deal look like beyond the president specifically mentioning immediately opening the Strait of Hormuz, or the bombing will continue in the meantime? Would it also include any 60% enriched uranium that this country might be storing someplace there?
Sure. Yeah, I think a deal has a goal. And the goal of the deal is to make sure they can't come back into the missile business. They can't build a nuclear bomb. And as to the 60% enriched uranium that exists, if they don't turn it over, I don't think we'll ever have a deal. Now, what people don't realize is that they were 2 to 3 weeks away, Iran, from going from 60% to 90% enrichment, which would give them weapons-grade material for 8 to 10 bombs. Midnight Hammer came along in the nick of time. When we learned through peace negotiations, they were bragging about having 60% enriched uranium at a level to make 8 to 10 bombs. If it went to 90, Trump said, okay, I've got 2 or 3 weeks to act. I'm going to act now. And he took their ability to go to 90% off the table. Epic Fury was designed to make sure they can't ever come back. They tried to build another enrichment program. So what did Trump do? He's destroyed the ballistic missile program. He's cut off their ability to have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to be able to be the largest state sponsor of terrorism because they don't have any money. Epic Fury is one of the most successful military operations in history. God bless the 13 and the injured. But they died in noble cause protecting America and the world from a cancer. He described the Iranian regime as a cancer. To anybody who's ever had a family with cancer, cancer is the enemy. The cancer hurts and it kills randomly. And they were the cancer of the Mideast. They were the largest state sponsor of terrorism. They had American blood dripping from their hands. Since 1979, every president's been talking about, we're not going to let them do this, we're not going to let them do that. Well, nobody did a damn thing until Donald Trump came along. And within 32 days and a couple of weeks to go, he's going to take the largest state sponsor of terrorism and grind it into ashes. He has destroyed their ability to acquire a nuclear weapon for decades. He's put them out of the ballistic missile business, and he's offering them a deal. And if they don't take it, he's going to blow up everything they got. So, well done, Mr. President. Well done to our military. I'm very happy tonight.
I'm very happy myself.
Okay, and
Praise the
it is
Lord.
wrapping up. But the president did highlight that this was really a far more imminent threat than people perhaps knew. You were on talking about my interview with Steve Witkoff, the Middle East envoy. They claimed they had the inalienable right to nuclear weapons. They admitted they had the 60% enriched uranium. They doubled down and tripled down that it was their right, that they had every intention of pursuing it. Now, we also learned in the course of this conflict that once again the world underestimated their ballistic missile capability, as more specifically the range of their ballistic missiles, which we now know could hit Paris and London. So the threat, perhaps we learned over the last week, was even greater than we thought going into it. I want your reaction to that and his message to NATO without really going at the alliance, but his message to countries that are dependent on the Strait of Hormuz. Take it, control it. It's in your ballpark and your interest, not ours.
Sure. Well, a couple of takeaways for me. Number one, I think what I learned tonight is how this is going to end. Now, we have 2 or 3 weeks left to achieve our military objectives, destroying the missile program, making sure they can never have a pathway to a nuclear bomb, and putting them out of the state-sponsored terrorism business. We're about 2 or 3 weeks away. But at the end of 2 or 3 weeks, what happens next? And here's what I learned. Iran makes a deal to make sure they never do this again, or we will destroy their infrastructure to survive as a nation. That's their choice, and that's the big takeaway tonight for me. Now, what did we learn over the arc of the last 32 days? All the efforts by Europe and Obama and Biden to control the Iranian nuclear ambitions failed. They're not supposed to have 60% enriched uranium. They couldn't go past 20. They were cheating. They're not supposed to have a missile that can go 2,500 miles. They had it. They were cheating. So what did we learn? That when Trump understood they were cheating, he blew their stuff up. And they were cheating, and they were getting closer. 2 to 3 weeks, they'd had enough material to make 8 or 10 nuclear weapons, and Trump blew up their enrichment facilities so they couldn't go from 60 to 90. But what I learned tonight, Iran's going to have a choice in 2 to 3 weeks. You either do a deal where you get out of the business you were in, or we're going to blow your stuff up that will allow you to function as a nation. That is your choice.
Well, let me ask this, because, by the way, I don't even think they have 2 or 3 weeks, Senator. That's 2 or 3 weeks when their infrastructure would be blown up. That's their electric grid. That is their ability to have any income. The lifeblood of their entire economy is oil. So that would no longer exist. Let me ask you specifically, both the president, last night on this program, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, have said, when this is over, we will revisit the issue of NATO and the fact that they did not allow our planes to land, and how they were missing in action. And is this going to be a one-sided alliance where we only go and protect Europe? We pay 2/3 of the freight, 2/3 of the bill. They have allowed their defenses to deteriorate dramatically, and culturally they have, you know, I never thought we'd talk about no-go zones and Sharia courts in Great Britain, but they exist in Europe, and in Great Britain they have those courts.
Well, number one, why do you want an ally that doesn't understand that a religious Nazi regime with a nuclear weapon is not a threat? When I heard this is not our war, this doesn't affect us, it means they don't understand the world as it is. They don't understand the threat from Iran. They don't understand the nightmare they created by giving the Ayatollah all this money. They took the money to build an enrichment facility and ballistic missiles, not to help their people. So here's how this ends. I would ask President Trump to do a forced posture reevaluation of our presence in Europe. I would move our bases out of Spain because they're an unreliable country. I would be looking at reducing the number of troops we have in Europe. I would be looking at repositioning these troops in countries that are more favorable to the United States. I never thought I'd hear myself say that. And why am I saying it? They were tested. When we needed them the most, and when the world needed them the most, to stop a religious Nazi regime from having a nuclear breakout, they took a pass. And not only did they take a pass, they said things that will offend me until my dying day. That this is not our problem. This is Trump's problem. A nuclear-armed Iran is the world's problem. It's humanity's problem. And when you deny us the ability to operate from bases that we have in your country to deal with the biggest threat on the planet, a nuclear-armed Ayatollah, then we need to reevaluate where those bases are, and we need to reposition our forces. And I would bring some forces home from Europe and make them do more. As to the Strait of Hormuz, you need to clear the straits if you're Europe. But NATO will look different after tomorrow than it did tonight. And I support a force repositioning, reposturing initiative for Europe. And I never thought I'd hear myself say that, but after what they did to us when we're trying to deal with the biggest threat on the planet, a nuclear-armed Ayatollah, they made it so much harder on us. They put our people at risk. They made our pilots fly longer. They denied us capability. I will never look at Europe the same.
Right, absolutely.
I think that there's going to be a reevaluation, and I believe America's contribution just went down dramatically, and we'll know more in the weeks ahead. As this now begins to wrap up, Senator Graham, we appreciate you being with us here with more reaction. Former U.S. Special Envoy in Ukraine, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg is with us, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates. Victoria, we'll start with you. Let's go to the broad general themes that the President laid out tonight. It looks like this is wrapping up. How it wraps up, it seems that destiny will be in the Iranians' hands, or whatever remains of the Iranian regime.
Absolutely, Sean. Good to be with you. Now, I think the president made the case tonight as to why this was in the vital national security interests of the United States to initiate Operation Epic Fury. And he laid out the case as to how close they were to getting a nuclear weapon. Nobody wanted to see another North Korea in the middle of the Middle East, and especially the kind of hostage taking we've seen over the course of this month. Their desire to hold the entire global economy hostage for their nuclear ambitions. This can't be tolerated. So the United States acted. We have acted decisively. It has been enormously successful by every possible metric. We'll wrap it up in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll see what happens to Iran after that. That's entirely up to what's left, as you say, of the regime.
Let me ask you, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, the president talked a lot about their ballistic missiles, about their army, about their air force, about their navy, about all their military infrastructure. What really seemed to precipitate, or what was the moment of decision for the president, was when they insisted that they have this inalienable right to a nuclear weapon and acknowledged that they had 60% enriched uranium. Do we need an answer to that question before this 2-3 week period as we wrap this up happens?
Sean, I do think we need it, and I think we'll get it. I think President Trump laid out his case incredibly clearly tonight, frankly, America's case incredibly well tonight. He spoke to the American people about why this was necessary. He spoke to our adversaries in Iran, said, it's your choice, make the call. I think deeply included in that is making sure they don't continue to have a stockpile of enriched uranium that they could once again enrich at some point in time. He also interestingly spoke not only to our erstwhile allies in NATO who have failed pretty terribly here, but he also spoke to our allies in the region, the Kuwaitis, the Emiratis, the Saudis, and said, we're not going to let you get hurt. He had multiple audiences here tonight. He spoke to them in a way that was Reagan-esque. And that reminded me too, Sean, the deterrence that has been restored against the Chinese Communist Party as a result of what President Trump has demonstrated that our military can do and what he can lead. I think that was a fifth audience that he is speaking to incredibly directly, and Americans are so much safer because of that.
Yeah, and General Kellogg, let me go to you, if I may. Militarily, there are not that many more targets to hit. It's very clear that the president, just like before Operation Midnight Hammer, before this Operation Epic Fury began, he seems to almost be pleading with maybe the fourth tier of leadership that he is negotiating with, that I guess has shown that they have some power or authority by allowing 20 tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. Don't force me to blow up all of your infrastructure on my way out. You know, take the deal we're offering. You have to wonder, is there anybody with common sense there that understands that he means what he says?
Yeah, Sean, good to be with you. Look, full credit to President Trump. He's the first president that had the guts to do what he's done. And the world breathes a lot easier because of that. But I think the theocratic government of Iran needs to be addressed. It's revolutionary. The Iranian Revolutionary Guards is a lot different than the army. They're two separate organizations. And as long as you got people like that in charge, with all that conditioning they've had for the last 40 plus years, I think there needs to be a complete change of government. You know, when you move from one to another, they're still radical. And it's a radical government that must be changed. Because you can always rearm. You can always try to rebuild something. But as long as they have that theocratic government, that radical government in charge, I think we're going to have problems with them in the Mideast. And the president has addressed that. Great credit to him on the first term and this term as well.
Yeah, I agree. How do you see this playing out in the days ahead, more specifically with NATO, Victoria?
Yeah.
Well, I do think we're going to...
NATO's turning to be cowards. I'm sorry, it's Victoria. Sorry there.
Oh, it's okay, General Kellogg. I know, I agree with you. I mean, I think NATO doesn't really matter here. They've proven themselves to be inconsequential. They can't deal with the biggest war in Europe since World War II. On their own continent, they haven't been able to deal with it. So I don't think we really need them in the Middle East. It would have been nice to have their support. But what President Trump has demonstrated is what the United States can do with a truly motivated ally like Israel. I mean, we can do devastating damage to a military like Iran's, and all of their Chinese and all of their Russian equipment has been powerless against us. And that, I think, is going to be the most powerful deterrent, to Secretary Pompeo's point, that is going to be established from this action, not just against Iran. This is about Russia and ultimately China, too.
Yeah, let me get your take, Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Unimaginable to me that the NATO alliance would shatter this way, and I mean, I look at it like Neville Chamberlain, Starmer. Oh, this is not our war, this is not our conflict, and then having countries like Spain and Italy and France, oh, you can't land your planes, you can't refuel in our countries. That to me would sound like a one-sided agreement when you're dealing with the #1 state sponsor of terror. This is not a this should not be a controversial assist on their part. I've got to imagine the ramifications of them abandoning us in this effort this is going to be deep, profound, and long-lasting.
Sean, I think that's likely true, and it breaks my heart. I've been someone who believed NATO was a very important set of allies for decades. I served in the Army in NATO operations in 1986 to 1989. But to watch them be so feckless, not to be able to convince their own people, their own domestic audiences this matters, to explain to them why they're safer as a result of the United States, what our friends in Israel have done, and then to assist us in that mission set, I think, as Senator Graham said earlier on your show, I think there will have to be a fundamental rethinking about how it is the United States makes sure we figure out exactly who our allies are and what we can depend on them for. I think there's a lot of work to do when this is over. President Trump said tonight, I hope they'll rethink their model and they'll get ready and go grab this. I hope they do too.
I'm not sure that this president's going to forget very quickly. I don't think Secretary of State Rubio will forget that quickly either. General Kellogg will give you the last word on the issue of NATO.
Well, under the NATO treaty, it's allowed. You can withdraw from the treaty after 1 year. Just give an announcement that you're going to do that. And it's reached a point, NATO needs to be redrawn, or the defense establishment needs to be redrawn, whatever it is. But they have proven today and this last week that when it's really critical and when time occurs, that maybe we need to have a new NATO, a new defensive establishment. If there's ways to do it. It's in the treaty. I think I'd use the Article 13 of saying we're going to give you a year, and then we're out of the thing. We're going to redraw the defensive alignments we have. Maybe create one with Japan and Australia and some of those European nations that are willing to go into the fight, like the new re-engaged Germany or Poland as well. Even Ukraine, which has proven to be a good ally as well.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we'll probably save a lot of money, but the fact that they did not have a moral clarity when you're dealing with the #1 state sponsor of terror, potentially this close to acquiring nuclear weapons, is breathtaking to me. And this will have reverberations, I believe, going on for decades to come. Thank you all for being with us. We appreciate your time tonight. Now, shifting gears, the Supreme Court, they heard oral arguments on birthright citizenship today in a case so important that President Trump actually became the first sitting president to ever attend a Supreme Court hearing. And while the left is pushing to allow more illegals to stay in the country, Biden appointee Ketanji Brown Jackson made one particularly bizarre, rather confusing argument in favor of allowing birthright citizenship to stay. Take a listen.
If I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law. I can also rely on them if my wallet is stolen to, under Japanese law, go and prosecute the person who has stolen it. So there's this relationship based on, even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that sense.
All right, now today's arguments came as a new report says nearly 10% of all births in our country in 2023 were to illegal or temporary legal alien mothers. Here with reaction, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, Fox News contributor Reince Priebus. Greg, I did read your analysis. I agree with the headline. Yes, they, as we listened to oral arguments today, I felt they were they were almost met with hostility by many of the justices, some that I did not expect on that court. Now, history has proven that you really can't interpret questioning to predict the outcome. However, I did not come away listening to those arguments today with great hope and optimism that they're going to allow this to happen. And here's the worst part to me. Unrestricted birthright citizenship is not allowed in most of the world. Europe, Asia, Africa is not allowed. Why would we allow this?
Yeah, it was a point that seemed to have been glossed over. I do think the Solicitor General John Sauer presented a very credible argument, backed, by the way, by historical facts, that the authors of the 14th Amendment never intended to grant universal citizenship to the children of parents who broke the law, coming here fraudulently or illegally and wholly without permission. But, you know, like you, judging by the tough questions posed to Sauer from the bench, looked to me like a majority of justices were skeptical or wary of altering more than a century of government interpretation, however mistaken it has been in retrospect. And as I wrote in my column, you know, this may be one of those instances in which a long-established norm and the complexity of reversing it is just too big of an obstacle for this court. Even conservative justices appeared reluctant to change things, to fix things. You know, Justice Barrett wondered aloud how an endless array of cases would ever be adjudicated. She said it would be a mess. Another justice raised the question of a humanitarian dilemma, as if that cannot be overcome. It doesn't seem to matter to the court, and this is what troubles me, that those who wrote the 14th Amendment did not mean to include illegal migrants. Not a word was ever said by the authors. In fact, one of them emphatically stated the opposite. He said this will not include persons born in the U.S. who are foreigners and aliens. And yet, Sean, that seems to be where the court is headed. We'll have to wait and see.
You know, how this is adjudicated, you know, or what the consequences of their decision should be in terms of inconvenience rights should not have any bearing on the constitutionality of it, should it?
No, I don't think at all. I mean, the question is citizenship earned or by just being here, or is it granted because there has to be some real connection to the country that's granting the citizenship? I mean, it seems like common sense. I mean, the 14th Amendment settled slavery, but it didn't address modern border issues facing our country. And I mean, it's very obvious. No one, the founding fathers and the people who passed the 14th Amendment were not considering that you would have advertising agencies, you'd have you know, direct flights from all over the world, including China, where people would come here, people would make money to bring people here, have a baby, no real connection to the country, and leave. I mean, there has to be some at least curtailing of the current situation. The other issue going on, and I'll be very quick, is that you had a district court decision today up in Boston where the district court applied their own decision to the entire country, which allows millions of people who were granted parole, meaning they could stay here legally for a period of time, millions of people by Joe Biden because of a mobile app that they instituted, which then halted our ability to deport these people. Now, the court is institutionalizing the Biden executive power to allow parole for millions of people to stay here in the country. Now, parole, meaning people who are here illegally, who are granted an allowance to stay here, it is not a right. It is only a privilege granted by the executive branch. The executive branch can take that away. But now you have a single district court ruling that the entire country now is a stop from dealing with these people who are here illegally because of an app that the Joe Biden administration put in place. It's wild what's going on in this country.
Absolutely.
All right,
Shameful.
Rex Priebus, Greg Jarrett, thank you both. When we come back, America now headed back to the moon and beyond, and our economy is on fire and getting hotter, and also our foreign policy is more dominant than ever before. Are we poised for that new golden age of American exceptionalism? Dave Asman, Clay Travis are next as we continue.
I need somebody else with all these youngins here.
I saw it in the movies.
Yeah,
exactly.
Haley's looking at me, wow, how old is she? Anyway, I mean, we've kind of moved on, and now we're saying, finally, we're back in space, we're reclaiming our leadership position, and this is a very important mission because obviously there are other frontiers that we have in our time capsule, and Mars is one of them. Did you know it takes 6 to 9 months to get to Mars? Not that easy. Just a few days to get to the moon.
But you need the moon to get there.
You need a few days.
So that's why
to
we're
get
going.
there. So this is a great step as we reclaim our leadership.
I love the fact that a visit to space, as we all watch it from here, can remind us of who we are. My father used to say, as a fighter pilot, rarefied air. And he would say, sometimes you have to leave the comfort of where you are to remind you of who you are. And I especially know that now. We are special. We are America. We do it differently. We do it bigger. We do it better. We aren't perfect, but we are all about production over perfection. I'm really proud of this country. I have to say, watching the point of view over your child's shoulder, Laura, and seeing what you see, you had more than a front row seat. You got to see your children do something that you've never done before.
That's exactly right. And I think, to note again, I think, Kayla, you said it, this is America's 250th birthday. You see on the side of the rockets there that took these astronauts up, America 250. Man, what an incredible time to be alive. What a great way to celebrate. What a nod to what we've accomplished as a country. And to be there with my children, with my husband, to have that memory, I will never forget yesterday. And I think I was telling you guys off camera, it is so incredible. You first see it, then you hear it, and then you feel it. And unbelievable, really unbelievable.
I will just quickly on the generational, you guys were joking because some of us weren't alive for the first moon landing.
Yeah, thank you.
But here's my point. But here's the point, though. It is so iconic that I guarantee you all three of us can quote that moment. That's one small step for man. We all know that decades later because it's so ingrained in the American spirit.
Absolutely. Those were beautiful days and fun days to study in history, and I will cheer these astronauts on from the comfort of planet Earth. They are very brave indeed. All right, tonight, a historic moment you will not want to miss. The Artemis II astronaut crew will join Trace Gallagher from Fox News at night, live from space. Wow, don't miss that. Hear firsthand what it's like preparing for humanity's return to deep space and what this mission means for the future. That's 11 p.m. Eastern time right here on Fox. Don't miss it. Well, President Trump with some tough talk on Iran, his stern warning to the rogue nation amid Operation Epic Fury, and how Tehran is responding. That's next.